Welcome to Wednesday evening on Thames Television.
You are invited to a murder. A stranger lies dead in Arlington Grange. There are 6 suspects, but which one is the killer? Could it be Mrs. Peacock, lady of the manor and beautiful society hostess? Perhaps Colonel Mustard, military hero and intimate family friend? Is Reverend Green a saint or sinner? Is it Professor Plum, a man with a degree of suspicion? Miss Scarlet, Mrs. Peacock's glamorous stepdaughter? Or Mrs. White, loyal housekeeper and devoted confidant? Your host for Cluedo, Chris Tarrant.
Thank you. Hello there, welcome to another Cluedo, another murder mystery to unravel from Arlington Grange. I hope your wits are about you at home as you do battle tonight against our celebrity guest detectives. Now, it's a bit of a family occasion tonight because we've got wife and hubby from this morning TV presenters, Judy Finnegan and Richard Madeley. And by jingo, it's a bit of a Mensa meeting tonight because against them, wife and husband team TV presenters, Maggie Philbin and Keith Jegwin. Hello. First of all, I want you to know that the murder was committed with one of these 6 weapons, but which one? Was it the funeral urn, the scarf, the glass of champagne, the revolver, the paperweight, or the cake knife? Now, the murder was committed with one of those 6 weapons, and it was committed in one of these 6 rooms. But which one? Was it done in the kitchen, in the study, in the dining room, in the drawing room, in the billiard room, or in the library? Okay, you'll be meeting 6 suspects. You've seen the 6 weapons. It was one of those, and it was done in one of those 6 rooms. But first, the evidence. It's a bit of a special day at Arlington because 2 of the village's best-known local faces are about to walk up the aisle.
It was ordained for the mutual society, help and comfort that one ought to have of the other, both in prosperity and adversity. To which holy estate these 2 persons present come now to be joined. Therefore, if any man can show any just cause why they may not lawfully be joined together, let him now speak, or else hereafter forever hold his peace.
This whole thing's a farce!
Jack! Oh my God!
What the hell is going on?
You were there, you saw him.
My darling, I don't know who that man was.
Jack Peacock.
Elizabeth's second husband. You must be Colonel Mustard.
What? But you can't be. I mean, you died in Bolivia. Those are your ashes on the plinth.
Really? Oh, I thought you could have run to something better than this, Elizabeth.
Why didn't you tell me you were still alive?
Oh, well, you see, the authorities in Bolivia can get very heavy-handed with people they don't like. So, it was healthier for me to, how should I say, disappear for a while.
I grieved for you for 3 solid years.
Darling, the only grieving you ever did was when you spilled red wine on your Arctic fox.
But why today, of all days?
I'd have thought that was obvious to save you from a terrible mistake. And after all, this is my house. My ancestral home. And of course, my money.
Jack!
You can't do this to me.
Oh, is it safe, Mrs. White?
Oh, no, Vicar. It seems we're all going to be given our cards. Ooh, I could murder that man, I could.
Heavens, I hope not.
He's chucking Mrs. Peacock and Miss Scarlet out of the Grange. They're going to be broke.
Broke?
The auto screen? What about the auto screen?
Oh, yes. Didn't it look nice? It made the church seem completely different somehow.
That screen was Mrs. Peacock's wedding gift to the parish. Oh, heavens. A wicked thought. She hasn't paid for it yet. £15,000, Mrs. White.
What I don't understand is why you went to Bolivia in the first place.
I think Professor Plum can give you a better explanation than I can.
A young South American student of mine claimed to have discovered a new wonder drug in the Bolivian jungle. A cure for the common cold. The financial implications were staggering. So we thought we'd investigate. Jack went on ahead. A month later, he disappeared and the expedition collapsed. I lost everything. Money, reputation.
So the drug was never found?
Oh, yes, it was. But somebody tipped off the police that I was a narcotics smuggler. I didn't stand a chance.
Won't you be lonely in this house, all on your own, Jack?
Lonely, Elizabeth? Lord, no. You don't think I lived like a monk in Bolivia, do you? But Peter will make a lovely lady of the manor. Delicious cake.
What will you do, Elizabeth?
I have a few ideas.
Headache?
Are you surprised?
Billiards? Well, you've grown, my girl.
I'm not your girl.
True. It's a pity you miss out in all this, isn't it?
Maybe I don't have to. We've always got on well, you and I. Common enemy and all that. Maybe we could come to some kind of compromise.
And give your stepmother ammunition in the divorce court. Don't be silly.
Talking of ammunition, do you always carry a gun?
Old habits die hard.
May I see?
What's mine's me own.
Listen to me, Elizabeth. We can still make it work.
Darling, there's no way that we can get married now. We both need money to survive. Of course, if you had any income at all.
But I love you. Does that count for nothing?
It's not enough for me, Mike. There are richer fish in the sea, and I intend to catch one.
Elizabeth, you can't mean that.
Look, don't be so ridiculous. The only reason you ever loved me was for my wealth. I'm afraid it's all over between us, Mike. Of course, you could reapply when you're rich.
What's that? You smuggled some out.
How much?
Anything you want.
Let's start at 50,000.
Well, you know I can't lay my hands on that sort of money.
Too bad, Elbean.
What are you doing? No. Why? I'd have paid. I'd have found the money somehow.
Well, that's better. Oh, don't worry. There's plenty more where this came from.
Oh, please don't abandon us.
If you think I'm spending one night under the same roof as that man...
You won't have to.
What?
I don't know how to tell you this, Mother, but he appears to be dead. Stone dead.
Are you quite sure?
So it was the wedding day that ended in murder, and Jack Peacock is really dead this time. Now, only two people know who the killer is. One of them's me, and the other one is the murderer. But which of our 6 suspects had the best motive to kill Peacock? Did the prospect of losing everything cost Jack his life at the hands of Mrs. Peacock? She stood to lose her inheritance. Did Miss Scarlet do the murder? Fearing her future, did Mrs. White kill Jack? Or was a financial dilemma just cause for the Reverend Green? Was a former drug deal the fatal connection with Professor Plum? Or did the loss of money and marriage provide the motive for Colonel Mustard? Our 6 suspects. So, we've seen the 6 suspects, we've seen the 6 weapons, and we've seen the 6 rooms. We want to know where it was done, what it was done with, and who done it. I've never seen Keith Chegwin so quiet. I rather like it,
See,
actually.
I think in the bedroom with the billiard table over the top of the head. It was a gardener.
Terribly close. Well, now, this is your chance to interrogate each of these 6 suspects. You can only ask one suspect 1 question at a time. But I should warn you that the murderer can lie and almost certainly will, whoever he or she may be, and all the others who are innocent must tell the truth. Right, who are you going to talk to, Judy and Richard?
You go first, Judy.
Right, we would like to ask Mrs. Peacock first, please. Do you know who sent you Jack's ashes?
It's a really rather touchy subject, and he went abroad with a team of about 4 research scientists to Bolivia, and I then got a telegram informing me that he'd met with a rather unpleasant end. They didn't give me the details because they wanted to spare me the pain. And of course, when the ashes arrived, I presumed they were his. Why should I have thought they were anybody else's?
You don't know who sent them to you, though?
It was one of the research scientists.
OK, right, pause there, Maidleys. Chegwins.
Yeah, go on.
Yes.
Ladies first.
Miss Scarlett. Miss Scarlett. How did you know that Jack was dead?
I didn't realise he was dead the moment I walked in, so upon further investigation, he appeared to be quite dead.
What was he actually suffering from? I mean...
Death, Keith.
No, was he... I was trying to find out whether he was shot. Or blood coming out.
I've got one
questions
question.
again. I'm sorry, but Maidleys.
Do I have to be on his team?
No, yes, I'm afraid that it's a husband and wife family occasion, and you have to be on your husband's team, yes.
There's room for
right. Judy and Richard, come on.
All right, OK. Good evening, Professor Plum.
Good evening.
Good evening. Please. Do you know who tipped off the Bolivian police about Jack?
No, I have absolutely no idea. I assumed he was dead. And when I saw him in the church for the first time, I was very surprised, but I have absolutely no idea who could have tipped him off. There was a rumor floating around that day that it was a scurrilous rumor that it may have been Mrs. Peacock.
Oh, come on, Professor. Why would I have tipped anybody off that my husband was a narcotics smuggler?
That's why I said it was a scurrilous rumor.
Thank you.
OK, right. Maggie Keith.
Colonel.
Yes?
Were you marrying Mrs. Peacock for the money?
What an utterly cynical suggestion. I might as well ask the same about you. Well, I have to answer that.
He did.
I think we would like to answer, actually, Colonel.
I was very much in love with Mrs. Peacock.
Right.
Thank you,
I didn't marry her for her money at all. Obviously, if we had been married and there was no money around, it would be rather difficult.
OK, one more apiece. Judy, Richard.
Right, OK. Vicar, Reverend Green, please.
Good evening.
Good evening. You were terribly upset about this business of the altar screen. Unusually upset, it might seem. I mean, why were you so upset about that? Unless, of course, you had some sort of financial involvement yourself.
Well, indeed, yes, of course I did, because I had paid for the altar screen in anticipation of Mrs. Peacock's money.
So you're in some difficulties now?
Well, yes.
To the tune of £15,000?
Yes.
Thank you.
OK, last one.
Mrs. White, why did you think you were going to be given your cards?
Well, I had been at the Grange when Mr. Peacock was there, when he was alive. Well, before we thought he died, and I never liked him, you know. Never fancied him at all. And he knew full well that I was very attached to Mrs. Peacock, and I knew that I wouldn't stand a cat's chance when he came back. I'd be out as soon as he looked at me.
How far have you got so far? I want to know where it was done, what it was done with, and who done it.
All right. This is a very early deduction, but we think we're on the right track. We think that the murder was committed in the billiard room. Do you want to tell them what the weapon was?
With the funeral urn, we think that was the weapon.
And I'm sorry to say, Professor, we think that you're the killer.
That's very subtle. Hang on, we're right. Maggie and Keith.
Right, OK, hang on.
Okay.
Yeah, we're still working on this teamwork here.
Well, we reckon it could have been done in the library. And we reckon with the Reverend's scarf. And we think it's the Reverend.
Beg your pardon.
Sorry about that.
A man of the cloth.
He was suggesting he thought it was you, Reverend Green.
Right, so scarf.
I'm a man of the cloth.
Well, now, let's go through your thought processes, Keith. It shouldn't take long.
I always get it from him on his shows.
Come on, you said to me it was in the library with the scarf and you think it was the Reverend Green, right?
Oh, gosh. I think because he was so upset about losing the money, the £15,000, he was wearing the scarf when he came into the house and he grabbed it very tightly.
It was cold outside.
It wasn't inside. I'm not sure why I think it's the library, actually.
I think that was a wild guess.
Wild
actually.
guess.
It was in the library with the scarf and you think it was the Reverend Green. Of those three, where, what and who, not one single one is correct.
Brilliant.
But in a funny sort of way that does help you because at least you do know that the Reverend Green is now totally innocent.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard and Judy, you said the billiard room, you said the funeral urn, and you said Professor Plum. And I can tell you that 2 of those 3 are correct. So we're getting quite close, I think, to who killed Jack Peacock. Join us again for more Cluedo in a couple of minutes. Welcome back to the second part of tonight's Cluedo. I think we're probably doing terribly well. We're trying to find out who murdered Jack Peacock at Arlington Grange. Now, Judy and Richard Madeley have said it was done in the billiard room, they said it was done with the funeral urn, and they said it was done by Professor Plum, and I've told them that 2 of those 3 are correct. Against them, the Chegwin family have said library, done with the scarf, and that it was Reverend Green, and I told them that none of those are correct. But actually, at least it does mean that the Reverend Green is innocent. He can continue to be interrogated, and all his answers must be the truth. Only the murderer, he or she, can lie, and probably will. Right, now, a little bit more evidence. Back at Arlington Grange, Reverend Green is quickly learning that money is the root of all evil.
But what will I do? I don't have that kind of money. They'll sack me.
Join the club.
Darling, there's no way that we can get married now. We both need money to survive. Of course, if you had any income at all...
But I love you. Does that count for nothing?
Do you always carry a gun?
Old habits die hard.
May I see?
What's mine is my own. I don't have a headache.
Excuse me.
Right, now you've seen all the evidence. This is where you get a chance to interrogate the suspects again. I can tell you that already one of them, the Reverend Green, we know to be innocent, but you can interrogate him if you want. Right, Judy Richard.
Mrs. Peacock. Now, Peter, who Jack mentioned. Now, Peter can also be a woman's name, can't it? Peter can be spelled P-E-T-A.
Peter?
Yes, Peter was the name that Jack mentioned to you. He said that Peter would make a good replacement for you.
No. He said Pepita.
Pepita?
Yes, some nasty little whore he'd picked up in Bolivia.
Fine. That actually rules out one of our last options there. Thank you very much indeed.
You're very welcome.
Right, so on the strength of that, whether it's any help or not, I don't know. Judy Richard, now I want to know where it was done, I want to know what it was done with, and I want to know who done it. And you had 2 out of 3 right before.
I know.
Right.
Which 2?
Ah.
All right, well, we'll still say it was done in the billiard room.
We'll go for the paperweight, I think, as the murder weapon, but we're going to stick, aren't we?
And stick my neck out for Professor Plum. Yes.
You did it, son.
Call him son. He's innocent till proved guilty or not. Now, I can tell you had 2 right before. Now, after another 5 minutes of intellectual battle, you've got 1 right out of 3 now.
Well, that's...
So I can tell you that 1 of those is correct, but 2 of them are wrong. Right, Keith and Maggie, can you take it? Ask a question.
Mrs. Peacock, you know, when you actually fled the church in your rage and what have you, were you actually doing a bit of play acting there? Did you know that? Yeah, did you actually know that Jack was coming back?
Of course I didn't. I was deeply upset. I mean, I was marrying Colonel Mustard, whom I cared very deeply for, and suddenly in the middle of the ceremony I heard this voice who I thought belonged to somebody who'd been dead for 3 years.
Did Jack actually say how he heard about the wedding?
No, we never got into that sort of conversation.
Right, on the strength of this then, Maggie Philbin, Keith Chegwin, where was it done?
What do you reckon?
Well, I think it was done in the library. With the urn,
by Professor Plum.
Professor Plum, now tell me why.
Well, we think that Professor Plum went off to go and get the urn, met Jack on the way back, plumped him up.
Sorry, what was that mime again?
Just like that.
Right, okay, well I can tell you that 2 of those are right, but 1 of them's wrong. 2 of those are right, 1 of them's wrong. Judy, Richard.
Right.
I think we're there, aren't we?
Yeah.
I think
Professor
we're there,
Plum.
confidently. Right, Professor Plum.
Professor Plum, is there something about that so-called wonder drug which apparently did nothing less innocuous than cure the common cold that you'd rather people didn't know?
No, I mean, it was something that was going to cure the common cold. Have you any idea of the financial implications? If someone had a drug that would cure the common cold, you could make millions and millions.
But Professor Plum, we all know about Bolivia and the narcotics connection. Did it not cross your mind that perhaps there might be some aspect of that to this?
Never.
Right.
Right, come on then, now don't forget, the 5 of them are innocent, and the innocent must tell the truth. The guilty one, the murderer, can lie and probably will. Right, now where was it done?
Well, we've changed our mind about the billiard room.
We thought it was too obvious to begin with, but we now think the murder was committed in the drawing room.
Drawing room.
So in the drawing room now, yeah, go on then.
We'll still stick with the funeral urn. Sure, that's the weapon.
Because we think that actually held the drugs. I'm sorry, Professor Plum, we're convinced that you're the killer.
Sir, just tell me again your reasoning.
Professor Plum knew all along, of course, that the ashes are there. He thought possibly that Jack was dead. What he didn't know was that the drug, which as we saw later in the first film, had in fact been taken out in Jack's supposed ashes. That was where the drug was all along. When you discovered that, and we're not sure how you discovered that, but when you did, you went to get them. There was some kind of struggle between yourself and Jack, and you killed him with the urn that held his supposed ashes, which we thought was quite a neat, ironic twist. But murder nevertheless.
No wonder you married each other. I can tell you it was the drawing room, it was the funeral urn, and it was Professor Plum. Very good.
I didn't mean to kill him. It just sort of happened. Jack took me into the drawing room, and then he took the urn down off the plinth, the urn that contained his so-called remains. And he tipped the contents out onto the table. And in among what looked like ash was a plastic bag of the drug. And as he sat there examining it, I realized that I didn't have to share the discovery with him or anyone else. So I picked up the urn and... the wonder drug turned out to be soluble aspirin. No doubt stolen by Indians from careless missionaries.
So it was Professor Plum who killed Jack Peacock with the funeral urn in the drawing room. Our apologies for wasting the time with the other 5 of you. You are innocent, you are free to leave. Only Professor Plum must remain behind for the rest of his life. And that's it from Cluedo. I hope you did as well tonight as Madeley and Finnegan. They were quite outstanding. Our commiserations to Maggie Philbin and to Keith Chegwin. Okay. But congratulations to Judy Finnegan and Richard Madeley. Yes. And that's your lot from us. There'll be some more murder mysteries to solve next time on Cluedo. Bye-bye.
Well, in fact, that was the last in the series of Cluedo. Next Wednesday at 7 o'clock, a new series of the travel and occupation quiz, Busman's Holiday, begins with a celebrity special.